me, your man, Jordan Rains at 50 Shades of Drunk if you're on Twitter. Back again with another episode of the IDP Army podcast. I'm joined tonight by my co-host, Fantasy G.I. Joe Herboth. You probably don't know him, but you should get to know him. He's a real American hero, this G.I. Joe. Joe, how you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Just, saving the world one fantasy rookie pick at a time this week.
Just doing the Lord's work. What a guy.
Yep.
Yep. Well, tonight we are going to break down some of our favorite defensive landing spots for some guys, defensive risers and fallers. That'll be some rookies. That'll be some guys that are incumbents, vets. And we'll just say, who took a hit, who's looking good. And if y'all have any questions or anything like that, we're going to keep it kind of chill tonight. So hit us with those questions. If you have rookie drafts going on, you need IDP help, hit us with those. We completed 2 rookie drafts today, didn't we? Or was it just the one we finished?
Yeah, we finished one today, but we got one that's kind of stalling out in the third right now, but it'll pick up soon.
Yeah. So, and these are all mixed IDP and offense. So we can help you guys with values or just give you reference points if you're looking for that kind of stuff. But yeah, so the NFL draft's over. I guess we can talk quickly about that. How was your draft weekend? What did you think about it all?
Well, I worked this weekend, but from the little I did get to watch and doing a little bit of research on Sunday, I think overall the AFC killed it. The NFC, not so much. There was a lot of teams in the NFC that I did not like what they did. Most notably the Los Angeles Rams, Seattle Seahawks, Green Bay Packers. There were plenty of teams that I thought in the NFC did not really fill the holes that they needed. But the AFC,
Yeah.
man, they got a lot of up and comers. They had a hell of a draft, I think, and I'm pretty excited to see how that a lot of the divisions there unfold, specifically the AFC North.
Yeah. Yeah, the Rams are not notorious for being good drafters, or the Seahawks in recent years, so it's kind of par for the course for them. The Niners, Niners fans are always kind of just generally upset type of people, but yeah, I tend to agree with you. I was kind of surprised we had as many defensive players come off the board as we did early. It wasn't really early. It didn't feel like a very robust defensive class, but we still had, I think, 12, 13 defenders come off in the first round, so that kind of took me by surprise.
Yeah, the needs were there. It kind of just comes down to, you may have to reach a little bit to get the player that you need the most. So I think that's kind of what we saw this year.
Yeah. Jamon Davis looks like a good IDP prospect, rear one. Zaven Collins looks good. Obviously, Micah Parsons, all those guys. So, talking about that, let's just go ahead and jump right into it, I guess. Let's talk about some of our biggest risers and fallers. Do you want to go ahead and kick us off with your biggest riser?
Yeah, sure. Well, actually, I'll just go ahead and start with someone that was chosen in the first round of this year's draft, and he was chosen by the Tennessee Titans, Caleb Farley, corner out of Virginia Tech. They selected him 22 overall, which could end up being a pretty good steal that late if he can stay on the field. He had some injury concerns. He tore his ACL in 2017 and had back surgery again in 2019. But when he was on the field, he was one of the top corners in the nation. So a lot of teams, I think pass up on him just off of this, injury concern. But he earned a 90.5 coverage last season in college, which is a hell of a season. And I think he's got the talent to be a corner that could have been the first corner off the board if Denver so choose, but they went another route. But I think he's falling into a pretty damn good spot. If you look at the Tennessee Titans' last 6 years in IDP, they've got, I'll just read them off. 2020, Malcolm Butler, top 5. 2019, Logan Ryan, top 5. 2018, Malcolm Butler, top 25, so it kind of slipped there. And then 2017, 16, and 15, they had 3 players, one in each season, top 15, with Adoree Jackson in 2017, Janoris Jenkins in 2016 and 15. So Malcolm Butler's gone this year. He went to Arizona, which I think was a pretty good pickup for them. But he's going to fold right into that. And I think from what I've seen just in the last 2 days on rookie picks in Dynasty, you can get this guy 4th round or later in the 2 I've seen. And I've been talking to people, and most guys aren't even considering this guy to be a pick in rookie drafts. So I think if your team needs it, This could be a steal in this year's rookie draft, and someone that I mean, like I said, the last 6 seasons they haven't had a guy finish one. They've had one guy finish in the top 25 every year, so that's a starting defensive back in IDP formats. So, and to get him in a 4th or 5th round pick, you're for the most part, everyone loves to take those flyers on offensive players late, but really, this is to me, this is an easy pick in every draft that I'm in.
Nice. That's definitely some awesome points. Yeah, that Titans cornerback spot there has been very productive. We've seen that. We've seen some consistency with that. And they did spend up the draft capital on him to get him. So he could be, like you said, a plug and play guy. And if you can get, 25, top 25 defensive back numbers, and if you are playing in a cornerback specific league, like on MFL, or RSO, and to get a guy like that, he's going to be even higher in a cornerback specific type of league. So yeah, he's a guy that I'm glad you brought up. I hope the listeners take note. And if you guys are in cornerback specific leagues, he's a guy, you heard it from Joe, he's worth a snag late in your draft. So my biggest riser, or my first biggest riser post draft, is Logan Wilson for the Bengals, the Cincinnati Bengals. So he's 24 years old. He's a little older than some guys you would like, but last year he was the first pick in the 3rd round for the Bengals. He only played 343 defensive snaps this year, but he had a really impressive 10 impact plays, which if you are in the IDP Army, if you're in the IDP Index, or you read my article about impact plays, you know that getting a high number of impact plays is really the difference maker between just a starting defensive player, an IDP player, and a week winning IDP defensive player, and guys that can make impact plays. And to play those few snaps and get 10 impact plays is really something. He only had 33 tackles, but that's kind of par for the course for a kind of a steady tackle rate for a guy like him. It was really interesting. Passer rating allowed, he was really good in coverage whenever he was targeted. The quarterback passer rating was 66.4. That's extremely low. Only missed 2 tackles. And the Bengals spent no draft capital at the linebacker position early in this draft. I don't even think they got anybody. So he's in a situation right now where he was taken last year. He got playing time as the year went on. He flashed. He had like 3 interceptions. Again, this was all on like less than 350 snaps. And he just crushed it. So he's a guy that I think is a huge winner coming out of the draft. A couple of just random funny stats about him, but he had more sacks last year, or as many sacks last year as Clavon Chason, who was an edge rusher. He had more tackles for loss last year than Clavon Chason, who's an edge rusher. And he played 200 less snaps than him. So we're talking about an off-ball linebacker who was making behind the line of scrimmage impact plays at a higher rate and a higher clip than a defender that wasn't Chason a first-round pick?
Yeah. Yes,
and he got the snaps last year. He got like 500-something snaps. He did diddly squat with them. So we're talking about an off-ball linebacker that has almost no competition now on a team that could struggle. They could we don't know what this defense is going to pull itself together per se. They've got some pieces, but he's a player that I'm super interested in, and he's definitely a huge winner post-draft. I think Mike Clay right now has like Josh Bynes or Jermaine Pratt leading their linebacker group this year, but I don't buy that noise. Jermaine Pratt's about as bread and butter, boring as they come. So Logan Wilson should be the guy you guys should be looking at for the Bengals.
No, I completely agree with you there. I actually have a team where I'm a manager of both Wilson and Pratt, and you're right. Jermaine Pratt's just a boring linebacker to watch and just start in your lineup. Logan Wilson, I think I can't imagine a world where he doesn't develop more this year and become really a prominent role in Cincinnati's defense, especially in a year where they did not spend, like you said, any draft capital on linebacker. They went edge rushers early or middle round, and I really like him, and yeah, I think he's going to be a heck of a linebacker there for a few years or maybe longer. So yeah, I think that was a great pick.
Yep. And again, it really just comes down to the fact that, he made the plays when he was on the field, and they didn't spend, like I said, any real meaningful capital on the position. So he should go out there as a starter. I mean, this is pontificating, but I mean, it looks like wheels are up to me. So I am in on Logan Wilson. I've had him stashed on a lot of taxi squads coming into last year. I drafted him hoping he would get on the field sooner. He didn't. But like I said, this year things are looking good for him. So he is my top riser post-draft. So you got another one for us?
Yeah, I'll move over to the another team in the AFC North. I'm going to move to the Cleveland Browns. And really, my main, what I want to talk about with them is just overall their overhaul on defense this year, whether it be in the draft or free agency. They drafted that linebacker. What was his name? Adding Koromoa, I believe
Oh
is how
yeah,
you pronounce it, out of Notre
Jeremiah.
Dame.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think he's going to come in and be a instant starter for that team and strengthen that linebacker core. And that's really was one of their weaknesses. But they also this offseason they added John Johnson, who we all know in the IDP world is a starter, for fantasy football in the defensive back position. And he's joining Grant Delpit, who is expected to be fully recovered this year. It's a very promising player from his Achilles injury. And then they pair him with first rounder Greg Newsome, who is already a proven stud, and Denzel Ward too. So I think this team can really be a fountain for fantasy football in IDP world. And as you mentioned too in a previous show, they brought in Jadeveon Clowney, and he could really post up a year that we haven't seen him do in 5 or 6 years. So I like what they're doing in Cleveland, and with this overhaul, I think that they're my choice to win the AFC North. And this will be the first time that they've been able to, if they do that, it'll be the first time since the league reassigned the division since 2002. So it's a rare time to be excited in Cleveland, especially on the defensive side. And I think all those guys that I just listed are valuable assets that you can get in the IDP world at a relatively cheap price.
Yeah, Miles Garrett being the one guy you probably can't get for a cheap price, but
No, yeah,
Clowney is going to be reasonable this year,
oh yeah.
which is taking a couple of down years to get there.
Well, John
Anthony
Johnson had a
Walker,
down year too,
John
a little
Johnson's
bit.
going to be dirt cheap. Ronnie Harrison's going to be dirt cheap. Yeah, I don't know who their middle guys are anymore though. They had
Exactly.
Sheldon Richardson and yeah, exactly. They had Sheldon Richardson and Larry
I,
Ogunjobi, who is now at the Bengals, and they were both really good for interior defensive linemen for IDP. But yeah, I guess since those guys are gone, it's just going to be all edge and all that back end. So there should be plenty, like you said, plenty of IDP points to go around.
Yeah, and
And
Koromoa, from what I'm seeing and in projections and just drafts that I've been in so far, he is going a little higher than I expected. He's kind of a middle third, back of the third, one that he was early third. So you can kind of look for him there, and if you can get him a little later, that'd be great. And I see him getting the opportunities immediately out the gate, and that's what it's all about. So hopefully he can develop into somebody, and I'm pretty excited to see the Cleveland Browns play in general, not just on offense for a change, but on defense now.
yeah, get some defense going out there. All right. Well, my next riser post draft is Jerome Baker, linebacker for the Miami Dolphins. This is another situation where a team had tons of draft capital and they chose not to address the linebacker position. And we saw him get used in a variety of ways last year. He did rush the passer a lot. He did get home with quite a few sacks. We do know that I believe he has first round pedigree. And we've seen him get the tackles too. He was the linebacker one last year, week one. I don't know if you remember that or not, but I do because he kind of came out of nowhere. But this year he posted 19 impact plays. That's a career high. There's definitely something going on here. And I think it was kind of surprising to people that he did put up such a good year this year because the narrative after his rookie year was he just wasn't really that good. But Brian Flores seems to have confidence in what he's got going on there with Jerome Baker. Because like I said, he did not choose to address that position. They got rid of Kiko Alonso right after he came in. So for whatever reason, he likes Jerome Baker and what he can bring to the field. So when they didn't address it, or that position really, I think they did. They brought in Bernardrick McKinney, I believe. And that may have been the only off-season move they made. But that's really more of a depth thing than anything. He had 7 sacks this year. I almost can't even believe that. 7 sacks, 7 tackles for a loss. It's 70 solo tackles, Jerome Baker did. So, yeah, I mean, the arrow's pointing up for him because of the way Miami chose to go about this draft. I don't think he's going to have 7 sacks again, but he always does have 1 or 2. He's 11 and a half through 3 years. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to see him put up, 120 to 130 tackles, 3 or 4 sacks, 5 or 6 tackles for loss. He always has a few passes defended. So and he's been a reliable player for Miami since they drafted him. So I think that they are just going to keep rolling him out there. And I think fantasy managers are going to be able to get him at a suppressed value because he doesn't check all the boxes that a lot of the talking heads about, defenders really checks, but like I said, he checks the boxes we want for IDP. He's on the field. He gets high leverage snaps because he gets to blitz, and he doesn't really have anyone breathing down his neck. So I think he was a big riser post draft.
Yeah, I agree with you. And like you mentioned, a big thing is that they did not try to address the position. They went edge rusher in the first round, and as well as they went safety in the second. So yeah, they have confidence in him. So that's enough to instill some confidence in me.
Yep. Amen.
All right. Well, I want to talk about next a guy that everyone's gonna know, DeForest Buckner. He's a top 10 talent every year. And he but every year I feel like there's more to be had with him. And this year the Indianapolis Colts drafted 2 edge rushers back to back that excited me. They went with Odiembo. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. And Kwity Paye, who we all know, he was a pretty high sought after player. And I think both of these guys have the physical gifts to be disruptive in the NFL and pretty quickly. And with these two now on the edges, assuming that they're both going to start, I think that they can open up a lane for DeForest Buckner to not always just be the focal point of the offensive tackles of the line to just stop. I think that they can provide some space for him to be more disruptive, and he's already disruptive without them. So I think this year they can open up for him to, possibly get a career high in sacks. Last year he had 9.5, which is a respectable number for sure. But I think over the last 3 years he has 29 sacks. I think this year he can get a career high in sacks. And he's already a defensive lineman, especially on the interior, that has a pretty high tackle floor. So, there's something to be excited about this guy already. We all know him. He's a star. And I think that he can put up the best year we've seen him have in 2021.
Yeah, I mean, he, like you said, he was a top 5 guy this last season. He did have a down year on impact plays, but the thing you love about him, like you said, is the tackle floor. He has an elite tackle floor. He basically puts up 60 a year. And if anyone, if you play IDP, and if you don't, there's something to take note of. But tackles are a little harder to come by for defensive linemen than they are for your primary players, like your linebackers, like your safeties. So to get a guy that's an edge rusher or an interior defensive lineman that can push past 45 is kind of what I call good. If you can get past 50, though, 55, you're talking, that's an elite tackle floor for the position. There's only a handful of guys that can do that. Danielle Hunter does it. DeForest Buckner does it. Joey Bosa does it. Who's the other? There's Sam Hubbard does it. And Harold Landry. He gets they have one of the highest tackle floors for anybody that plays the DL position or interior position. If you go look at those guys' numbers and then look at other guys you think of as premier edge rushers, go look at DeMarcus Lawrence, go look at Khalil Mack, go look at Aaron Donald, you'll notice that their tackle numbers are significantly lower. Khalil Mack is actually really interesting because if you look at Khalil Mack when he played for the Raiders, he was like a 70-12 guy, 70 tackles, 12 sacks. That was like elite. Since going to the Bears, he's barely pushed over 50 sacks or 50 tackles a season. He hovers around that 45 area, and that's really hurt his fantasy value since he's left. And that's because he's playing a more of a 3-4 position, which is, I don't want to get in the weeds on that, but he just doesn't tackle as much as he used to. And that's just not a big part of what you can count on from him anymore. So you really got to look at that. So if you can get a guy like DeForest Buckner, who's going to have a solid floor every week, 5-6 points, and then he's got that boom potential on top of that, that's what you really want at all your positions, really. And that's why you're looking for impact players. Yeah, I mean, as you can see here, he only had 6 points less than Aaron Donald, it looks like, this year. Leonard Williams had all these guys had great seasons, but you can see a lot of these guys have high tackle floors. DeForest Buckner, high tackle floor. Montez Sweat pushed up past 50 this year. Harold Landry pushed up. J.J. Watt, he has had some good seasons. That's a little lower this year. Brian Burns, I believe, had 55. So that's kind of the number that you're looking for tackles, and DeForest Buckner definitely nails that. So I love that pick. If you can get a little more boom from him, like you said, with more edge rushers there, I mean, you could look at a DL1 season like DL overall 1. So that'd be big. All right. Well, my next guy or guys that are risers or fallers, I will tell you all in a second because we are going to play a little advertisement, pay some bills. You already know what it is. So sit back and enjoy the ride. What's good, IDP Army? It's Jordan Rains, and quickly I want to tell you guys today about the big project I've been working on, the Ultimate IDP Index. The Ultimate IDP Index is the #1 resource for IDP fantasy football players, rookies or veteran for 2021. Inside, you're going to find contract information, tiered IDP rankings, detailed player production profiles going back to 2017, suggested trade values, and a whole lot more, including unique write-ups, unique videos that will only be available within the Ultimate IDP Index. But to me, probably the most valuable thing is the fact that the trade value estimation tool is going to be updated weekly, so you'll always be aware of what a player is worth in your Dynasty League at any given moment. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for the IDP Army Patreon today. Patreon.com/the IDP Army. Join the Black Ops tier and join the IDP Army today. We're back. Bang, bang. Y'all go sign up for real. We've had quite an influx past couple of days of people getting in there, getting a lot of good feedback. I've added several new players. There's a couple of guys at the bottom of the queue right now. Darnell Savage is about to be put in there. So yeah, it's just been really fun to get that out there to people and start interacting with people around, those tiered rankings and those production profiles, and the conversations are sparking up. And, it's been updated today. It was updated yesterday. There's always something going on. You guys are moving up and down. Their values are going up or down. I mean, I've indexed 15 rookies into the primary overall set. Before the draft, I had 20 rookies on the other side. That was just a rookie ranking. So they're already going in there. I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody's in the top 2 tiers right now. I do believe we had somebody sneak into the 3rd tier, though, of the overall. And I think there's over 150 players in their index right now. So definitely get over there, y'all. It's the best IDP resource that exists, like I said. So let's talk, and I'm using it right now. So I mean, like I use it all the time. Like it's not like just something I created just to play. Like, it's not a joke. Like it's legit.
It's the perfect time of year too to use this product, because everyone's dynasty rookie drafts are kicking off right now, and there are a lot of people that kind of just go off of that ADP on that draft. When you're in the draft, or go off of what they see on ESPN and just the popular picks. But there's a lot of good stuff out there that people would be smart to utilize.
Yeah, I was talking to some of the guys yesterday, doing some, trying to working with our sponsors, Monkey Knife Fight, which if you guys look at that code, and I was talking to the rep there, Zach, and he was telling me he's in an IDP draft. So I hit him. I said, hey, check out the index. And he hopped in there and he's like, dude, this is incredible. And he messaged me today on Sleeper. He's like, I've been using this all day. He's like, for all my drafts. I'm like, hey, man. I was like, this is what's up. I'm telling you, tell all your buddies. I was like, get everybody in there. He's like, man, this is awesome. He's like, why do you have Tyrann Mathieu so low? And I was like, can't let the fandom get away. There's a reason, unfortunately. Dig a little deeper. It's there. All right, let's talk about let's finish off these risers. My last guys are pretty simple. It's Eric Wilson and Alex Singleton for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, again, like these other guys, there's nobody has come in to take this job away from them. Alex Singleton just had an incredible season coming off the bench. Same thing with Eric Wilson. Both these guys were in contention for the waiver wire pickup of the year last year, and now they're both on the same team that looks like it could be a shit show. I don't know why we do this every year where we try to make Philly some sort of great organization that's going to come through it all on the other side. That's just not what's going to happen, okay? It's going to, every year, like clockwork. No, they're going to be a dumpster fire, and Logan Wilson and Eric Wilson and Alex Singleton are going to get a fuck ton of snaps, and they're going to be put in shitty situations all the time, and they're just going to score. So, and Josh Sweat, that's my other guy on this list. So it's basically all the Philadelphia Eagles linemen and linebackers, because they're just never going to leave the field. So they're all huge winners. I'm not even going to go into it too much more than that.
No, you're not wrong though. The hype around the Eagles every year, it's like Come on, man. How many times do we have to be burned with this? Let's move on. But for IDP, get their defenders. But my God, it's, time to move on from some of them offensive players, outside of Jalen Hurts and maybe Miles Sanders at the right price.
I don't want anything to do with any of them.
yeah, probably not a bad idea.
You saw that trade? I got rid of Dallas Goedert, and I came up on that trade too. Ooh,
well,
boy, I felt
I
good.
believe I saw you get rid of Miles Sanders.
I got rid of Miles Sanders yesterday too.
A pretty good pack deal, and you got I don't remember everything, but one piece who I'm not high on either. But you got James Robinson, and it's like, okay, in a world where James Robinson really is just what they're talking about him being, he's probably not going to finish, but 10, 15 spots away from Miles Sanders anyways, and in reality, points per game, that's like what, 3-4 points per game? Big deal. I mean, you gained a first round pick out of it, which who'd you even turn that into?
Justin Fields. I felt good. It felt good.
I mean, but now if you were to complete that draft and show the fantasy manager that sent that to you, would he trade you Justin Fields, James Robinson, a couple other players for Miles Sanders?
No, he wouldn't.
He wouldn't.
Well, he might.
He might, but most people would not. And
yeah, I know.
That's something that I feel like people try to take advantage of. Not assigning a name to the pick yet. It's a lot easier to get these picks beforehand. So
yeah,
I think that was a great move by you.
Thanks, appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't want to toot your horn too much.
I'm in the trenches for real.
All right, well, let's move on to my next riser. And so this year, the Detroit Lions, we saw what happened with them in the first round. They got a steal on their offensive line, with Penei Sewell. But that's for another story. But in the second and the third, they went back-to-back with interior linemen, which is not a sexy pick for a lot of guys, a lot of teams, a lot of fans. But these guys, I don't foresee them being those DeForest Buckner, Myles Garrett. I don't think they're anything for them. But what they're going to do, they're going to make NFL teams not just run the clock out on this team by running the ball 25 times a game. I mean, last season, they averaged opposing offenses averaged 135 yards per game on the ground against the Detroit Lions. 135. That's bottom 5 in the league. And that's just a number that they knew they had to address from ground zero. I mean, obviously Sewell, was for the offense, but these two, they went back-to-back with them in the second and the third. And I think those are great choices. Now, what that does, though, for them is that produces, that forces the other team to have to pass the ball. And, Romeo Okwara is on the Detroit Lions. And I know I've talked about him in the past, but this is another thing that goes well for him. He's a pure pass rusher, doesn't drop back in coverage too often. But being a pass rusher, you need the quarterback to drop back as much as possible to get home, to get that quarterback hit, to get that tackle for loss, to get that sack, forced fumble. And so being the edge rusher that he is, that got home 10 times last season, and he's constantly disruptive in that or against the opposing offense, I look for there to be a substantial increase of opportunities for him to get, because hopefully the opposing team is passing more against the Lions. I mean, they're still a pretty weak defense, but filling that hole in the center, of that interior line, I think is going to bode well for his pass rush opportunities. And he already finished top 15 in 2020. So I'm a huge supporter of Okwara, and I think that his, end of season, I think we're going to see this guy possibly break inside the top 10 this year. And I mean, in most leagues I'm seeing, he's got that defensive line at designation. So it's a huge steal, to try to get him now before all this produces, out on the field and gives us actual numbers.
Nice. Yeah, I like those picks. I like these team picks. I really like that. That's kind of how you have gone. All right, that's all. I don't have any more risers. Do you?
No, that's it for me. I mean,
right.
There was, I went DeForest Buckner earlier, but I easily could have went with either of those edge rushers, especially Kwity Paye. But I went with Buckner there. So I do like what a lot. And you'll notice all these are AFC teams. I mean, the AFC, I think, killed this draft, especially on the IDP side.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree. All right, let's talk about some fallers. All right. This one's kind of tough for me because it's not. This is a team approach. But my first fallers are kind of just the Arizona linebackers because we're adding more first round talent to a team that had a first round talent, supposedly a generational linebacker talent who couldn't get on the field last year. So they play him, and you know who I'm talking about. I'm just going to pull up his metrics right here. I'm talking about Isaiah Simmons. Yeah, this dude gets on the field for 376 snaps as a top 10 pick, top 12 pick, whatever it was last year. That's not right. That doesn't feel like a confident pick, a pick that you made the right way. So they turn right back around and they go get another linebacker in the top 15. Or were they pick 15 or 16? They were 16, right? I think he came off the board 14. I can look right now. Regardless, it doesn't matter. He came off the board 16. Okay, so you have two top 16 first-round linebackers the past 2 years. You're adding them to a team that has Jordan Hicks, who was not last year 2020, but 2019, who was the number one overall linebacker in fantasy. Okay, so we have a guy there who has shown he can be a supreme alpha in a league that has guys like Devin White, Roquan Smith, Devin Bush, Blake Martinez, Jalen Smith. We've seen this guy on Arizona be number one. And then you go and add a first-round linebacker last year, Simmons. Don't know what you're doing with him. Then you go add Zaven Collins, one of the most, again, kind of a versatile guy that can play off ball, play edge, play coverage. That's the same exact player that that Isaiah Simmons is supposedly. So now you have two of these guys in the mix. I don't know what's going to happen here. You know what I mean? And I have concerns because they didn't know what to do with Hassan Reddick either, until last year. And that he only started playing edge because Chandler Jones got hurt. Like literally you can go look at his snap share and like where he was playing last year. He was not playing the edge until Chandler Jones was gone. So he might not have even been out there on the field and gotten the opportunity he got if that hadn't happened, because Arizona doesn't know what to do with their linebackers. So they go and draft another linebacker. I don't want anything to do with any of these guys this year. Now, one of them's going to pop. Two of them may pop. Okay, that's fine. At the cost that they're going to have right now associated with them, like there are people in the IDP space that have Simmons as a top 10 IDP asset this year. Like if people are selling that kind of smoke, that means someone out there, or let's not call it smoke, let's call it snake oil. If somebody's selling that kind of snake oil, that means somebody's buying it. So somebody in your league, hopefully not you, is viewing Isaiah Simmons as a top 10 IDP asset. We don't know that, the upside is there. Yeah. But it's there for Jordan Hicks too. And it's there for Zaven Collins too. And we know Budda Baker's going to get his. And we know that, Chandler Jones will eventually get his, and then we add TJ Watt and we add JJ Watt to the mix. So I see assets that I can project what's going to happen to on this team, and I see assets I can't. I don't want the assets that I don't feel comfortable projecting, and especially not at cost. And the crazy thing is JJ, Chandler are all going to be dirt cheap. I mean, JJ was like a 15, 20 round pick last year. Nobody wanted JJ Watt. Chandler Jones is old now, and he's coming off an injury. He's literally, right now I'm in a rookie draft, and we can get vets. He's on our waiver wire, and I about shit my pants. I was like, damn, I might use a second-round rookie pick to put Chandler Jones on my team because I know what I'm getting with Chandler Jones. Hopefully no one in Furious 2020 is watching this right now, because as soon as that draft is over, Chandler Jones will be on my team, and he might before the draft is over, straight up. So that's the world we're living in. So no, I'm calling the Arizona linebackers as fallers.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. Like you're saying, it's basically just mitigate the risk. I mean, there's too much risk. Like you said, one of them will probably pop from game to game, but you don't know who that's going to be right now, and you don't know if it's even going to be either one. There's a lot of potential there, but they really clouded anything that we could really put something behind on our projections on either one, having both of them there. So yeah, it's a pretty scary situation to be a manager of either one of those two right now.
Yeah. And it was like kind of fun when Isaiah Simmons had a DL tag and like you thought you were going to hack the system, but that's not happening because they took it away. No. So now you're not hacking the system. You're just hoping you can hack it.
Yeah. You're just hoping and praying.
Yep. Who you got for a big old faller?
All right. Well, for me, I'm going to go back to the Tennessee Titans, who I had, them as a riser earlier for the pick on Farley. But I'm gonna go with Rashaan Evans. This is a guy that has had a high tackle floor in the past, but the Tennessee Titans informed him just yesterday that they would not be picking up his fifth-year option. And this comes on the heels of into the NFL draft and when they drafted Monty Rice out of Georgia in the third round. So, if you were to ask me, it looks like they're already, looking to, come season, especially midseason, they might be looking to already, implement Rice into the offense a little more than you would think. Now, I'm not saying
Defense.
that Evans or defense, yeah. Now, I'm not saying Evans is going to lose his starting role. I'm not saying that, but realistically, as the season progresses, I do believe that we could see those opportunities, of snap count of him on the field dwindle, which is a huge deal for Evans because his tackles are his saving grace. I mean, his tackles is what keeps him relevant in the IDP world. If you look at his impact plays throughout his career, they're almost non-existent. 2028, 2019 was 14, which is a pretty decent year.
You had a few this
And then
last year.
8, yeah,
That's it. Oh
yes,
man,
yeah,
bleaker than I
you know,
thought.
yep. So through 3 years, he's got 25 total. And almost full 3 seasons. He's only missed one game. In his seasons. So the last 2 seasons tackles, he's got 96 and 111 tackles, which that's great. That's what you want. But when you're not doing anything else, hardly, what happens when that snap count goes down? His production goes down because he's not making up for lost snaps by getting behind the line, getting those tackle for losses, getting those sacks, getting, and doing those things that really change the defense. He's not doing those. He's not disruptive. So I think with them bringing him in and them already telling him, hey, we're not bringing you back next year. I think this is the time to try to move on from him if you have him. I mean, he has posted some decent numbers last couple of years, but I'm not a buyer now on him. I think it's time to move on. And now there is a world where maybe they can, he can land somewhere next year and produce these numbers again. But I don't see him ever topping what he's already done. He's just not that disruptive, and I don't look at him as an impact player. And he's not someone who I don't think is going to completely ever flip the script on a game on a team to be that appealing to have to start week in week out.
No, that's fair. I mean, that was hard. That was tough to hear because I've been a big Rashaan Evans guy. He was one of my guys last year. He did have the 14 impact plays the year before that, but like you said, 8 this year. I mean, that's kind of shameful. 5 of them, not shameful. I mean, I'm sure it's a tough job. But 5 of them, which I find interesting, were pass deflections, which he'd only had 1 before that this year. And that was always people's kind of knock on him was that he was like so bad in coverage. But I mean, he allowed a quarterback rating of 87, when targeted. That's not bad. I mean, that's pretty good. So I think he's a little bit underrated, but like you said, he does leave a lot to be desired, which unfortunately is how a lot of just the Titans defense is in general.
Well, and you look at him, as a fantasy manager yourself. I mean, you have him rostered, but if you look back, I mean, he's never finished as a linebacker too. I mean, he's
Here's the
at
thing with him
best
though, is you can play him every week and you feel confident playing him every week.
because of
I
his
like
floor.
exactly. Like he's the ultimate because like you said, like he's never gonna pop, but he's never really gonna not show up either. And that's kind of how I always remember him on my teams that I have him on because I almost never bench him because I'm like, well, I know Rashaan Evans is gonna do enough,
But with them drafting, Rice in the third round, how confident are you that I mean, the Titans have to see this as well. They got to say, hey, yeah, we got a guy here that, sure, he's making those tackles after the guy crosses the chains. He's making those tackles, 6 yards downfield, for the running back, but he's not doing anything for that defense, in my opinion, to complete the script during the game. He's
No,
not
you're right.
making a game-changing play, hardly
You're
ever.
right.
Like you said, 8 impact plays in a full season, which is not necessarily good. The 14, I think, that he had in 2019 is fair, but if
Well,
his
it's
tackle,
crazy. The crazy thing about that is he had 9 tackles for loss in 2019, 0 pass deflections. 2020, he only had 1 tackle for loss, but he has 5 pass deflections. So it looks like he has the skill set. You know what I mean? He can get behind the line of scrimmage and he can cover, but he hasn't been able to pull it all together in the same season. So I don't know. He just like you said, if he can pull it all together, I think he could get up there, but it might be time to unload him.
Well, yeah, and like I was saying, I mean, yeah, that floor is nice, but if that snap count does drop at all, I don't see him being able to make those impact plays to make up for the tackle opportunity that he's going to lose. So
Yeah.
I'm out on him, and while the getting's good with him, I would look to move on and see what you can get.
Yep. Fair. One of my biggest losers of the fallers at post draft was Willie Gay, linebacker taken last year by the Kansas City Chiefs. Didn't really get on the field much this year. Ended up getting hurt towards the end of the season. Did not play in the Super Bowl. Had to be put on IR. So with their first pick in this year's draft, since they traded their first round pick, they ended up taking Nick Bolton, linebacker out of Mizzou, Missouri, SEC linebacker. He's a great linebacker. He's kind of just got forgotten about because people kind of knew who he was, a year or two ago, because we knew he was going to be a great prospect. And I feel like there was some fatigue around him. But he's a playmaker, solid tackler. He's a little smaller than I think some people like, but he kind of reminds me of like Devin Bush in the way that he can just like cover quickly, he hits hard. So they went and they addressed the linebacker position, which is one of the most, just sewn together group of guys that's ever been in the NFL the past 3 or 4 years is the Chiefs linebackers. There's just so many guys, just random ass dudes. Darren Lee, Reggie Ragland, Brashad Breeland, or not Brashad Breeland. They're just guys you don't really want to be your linebackers. Damian Wilson. So they go and they take Nick Bolton. So that tells me a couple of things. That tells me, one, that they weren't exactly excited about what they think Willie Gay can really bring to the table this next year, and that they wanted to bolster that group, and they know that that's a big weakness, and for as much as people like to say linebackers are replaceable, kind of like people like to say running backs are so replaceable, teams with bad linebackers generally have pretty bad defenses. Generally. Now, if you have elite guys everywhere else, like the Washington football team, you can kind of get away with some things. But great defenses generally have a general who can get things done. Sometimes that's an edge guy, but more often than not, it seems to be these middle linebackers. So they went and they got a guy they think they can do that. He's supposed to be a great locker room presence. He's supposed to be a leader of men, and he plays the linebacker position, which is one of those positions, like I said, that can make this can be the heart and soul of a defense. So I think that hurts Willie Gay, and we already knew Willie Gay was not drafted to be a leader of men or anything like that. He was drafted because he's fast and he can cover a lot of space, but he also had character concerns, I guess you would call it, because of just some random stuff he got into. So they bring in Nick Bolton. Maybe we get a little fire and ice, but for right now, Willie Gay's arrow is pointing down for me.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I like what they did though. The Chiefs, we look at them and we're like, well, they didn't have their first round pick. What are they going to do? Well, they addressed every issue they had to. And by giving up their first round pick, they also addressed their major concern, which is the O-line. So they're just the prime example of you don't have to have, that early pick. You don't have to trade up all the time to get what you need. And they just showed the NFL really how to draft. Andy Reid did it again. It's impressive every year. It really is. Sometimes I kind of hate it, but there's a lot of NFL teams out there that could take note on how to do that. And the New Orleans Saints are one of them. They're
the worst team. They're so bad at drafting. There's nothing more predictable than a bad Saints draft.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so and the thing that I give them, at least they go for the position they need, but they just don't get the right guy.
Yeah, they're like the Raiders. They must have the same scouts.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I agree with you there. I think that I would be a big seller on him, and they're not really a team that is really heavily sought after for IDP, anyways.
No, Frank Clark is a huge turd. Chris Jones has been a turd. Chris Jones, I'm sorry, I hate to say this. Chris Jones has been a shadow of himself the last 2 seasons. Just go look at the stuff he did in 2019. And then since then, I don't even know if he's put up the numbers combined since then that he did that year. Like, it's just not pretty.
Bro.
It is not pretty.
Look at him, you look at him in the playoffs, and he's back. It's like, well, where was this?
I don't get it. It's
I do.
it's
He
odd.
got paid, man. He got paid. He
Hey,
ain't really that concerned. It happens everywhere in the NFL, man. We see it every year, and he's a prime candidate.
Breaks my little heart. All right, well, I only have one more faller. How many more do you have?
I got one left. Yep.
All right, so we're going to take one more quick break, and then we'll get these last two fallers in, and we will answer any questions for anybody who's here hanging out in the chat last couple of minutes, and then we will get out of here. So be right back. What's up, IDP Army? It's your man, Jordan Rains, interrupting the show quickly to tell you guys about a new sponsor of the show, Monkey Knife Fight. If you haven't checked out Monkey Knife Fight yet, you're definitely going to want to do that. Let me tell you what they have to offer, all right? Monkey Knife Fight is daily fantasy sports gaming website for casual sports fans that is simple and easy to use and easy to play. The users determine which superstars competing for the day's professional sporting events will record more or less than a contest provided. Monkey Knife Fight's daily fantasy prop games play similar to salary cap-based DFS games, but without all the algorithms, the lineups, and most importantly, the sharks. You guys got to go try this out, IDP Army, okay? Monkey Knife Fight is like our brand, like the IDP Army brand. It's disruptive, it's forward-thinking, and they are definitely where we play daily fantasy sports. You guys should too. Get started today with a 100% instant match bonus up to $50 if you use the promo code IDP Army. That's only for the first time or new depositors only, but hopefully you guys are getting in there, winning some money, having a good time, and make sure whenever you guys get in there, and if you do win a little bit of money, you know, which is what we want you to do, take those winnings, go sign up with the Patreon.com. That'll get you into the IDP Army Patreon, where you can check out the Ultimate IDP Index, the Discord channel, and all that other good stuff. So, IDP Army, you know what to do. Back to the show. All right, we're back. Go that promo bonus is actually up to $100 now. So if you put in $100, they'll match up to $100. So that the commercial said 50. I actually just talked to the guys yesterday. If you put that in there and you go win one of these contests where you can triple up, I mean, literally you could make like $600 off of $100. So I don't know why anybody's not using the IDP Army code and going to Monkey Knife Fight doing this shit. They got golf, they got UFC. They got basketball, they got baseball, and the games they have on there are super fun and super easy. So go make some money, and then when you do sign up for the Patreon, like I said, so that Joe and I can feed our families. So we would super appreciate
free money. No reason.
Yeah, free money. Who doesn't love free money? I mean, show me someone who doesn't love free money, and I'll show you a fucking liar.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, my last follower is LVE from the Dallas Cowboys. It's pretty simple, okay? He came into the league, set it on fire on the back of like a zillion tackles. Okay, great. The reality is he's not an impact player. Okay, he has a very low number of impact plays in his career. In his entire career, he has exactly 20 impact plays, guys. That's not good. Okay, just for context, let's just pick a random linebacker from last year. Joe Schobert had 19 last year. Okay, Leighton Vander Esch has that in 3 years, and he's played 2 full seasons and like a half of another one. Okay, like he's just a tackler, and that's what the Dallas Cowboys know now. So they drafted Micah Parsons, and he's not going to fucking be playing. I mean, this isn't complicated to me. He's kind of a bum. I hate to be like that. They brought in Keanu Neal. He's going to be playing some linebacker. Jalen Smith is not a bum. Sometimes he can't cover. It always happens to be, you know, on Thanksgiving when everybody's watching football. I'm like, oh, look, Jalen Smith, he fucking sucks. Boo!
Well, not to mention, you know, they drafted Jabril Cox from LSU too. So I see.
Leighton Vander Esch is dead. So if you have him on your team, you're a putz, and you need to get rid of him ASAP. And if that's it. That's the whole thing.
Yeah. So actually, let's just keep talking a little bit about Leighton, because on our notes you put LVE, which I see now stands for Leighton Vander Esch. I thought you meant Las Vegas. So I thought you were going to talk about their court, but and you're totally right. You know, this guy, the Cowboys did talk about. They already told him that they're not going to pick up his 5th-year option too. And so they have mentioned that they'd talk about extending him, but it doesn't matter. the position's not there for him. The starting role isn't. They've moved on. They gave that big contract out, and then they went with the 2 rookies this year. And so if this guy goes somewhere else, he's still I don't see him being heavily sought out after. But his one good year was amazing. I mean, that rookie season, that he put up 170 plus tackles and broke the franchise record for the Cowboys in 2018. Yeah, but since then he's been not just inconsistent, he's just not been good. Every game you watch, if you watch the Cowboys, it's like they love to just highlight this guy. He's the highlighted player of that game, and they're hyping him up like he's Troy Polamalu. And as the game goes, it's like, what are you talking about? It's like, oh, he got past Vander. It's just like, well, of course he did. I mean, if you're not even watching football, it's like, yeah, 2018 is over, guys. It's time to move on. And the Cowboys are too. And that's the big thing for in the IDP world, is to kind of look at what these teams are doing. And that's what I based a lot of my fallers on tonight, is look at what the teams are doing. And if the Dallas Cowboys are looking to move on from them, why in the world, should you not? They're not going to give up a good player. I mean, it just doesn't really happen in the NFL, especially this guy. He's considered a pretty good locker room presence. There's no off the field issues that we can see. So it's absolutely time to bite the bullet. And you had that one great year out of him. You probably got him off waivers that year too. It was awesome, but that's gone. It's over. Time to move on and see if you can get something out of him. I mean, he's still kind of a heavy name out there.
A name, so you can kind of.
He is a name for now. You wait till week 3, week 4, and you realize that he's getting 20 snaps a game. It's too late. You better do it now.
Amen. All right, who's your last faller?
Well, that was mine.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we doubled down. Yeah. That's a double.
That's
double trouble. So he's no good for real. So all right, well, that's our risers and fallers segment, y'all. I see some people in here in the chat. If y'all have any IDP questions, draft questions, fantasy questions, I mean, we can talk offense, whatever.
I got a question for you. In the fantasy rookie drafts that we're doing, what has surprised you the most on the IDP side? Obviously, Parsons is going first. That's going everywhere.
I saw Zaven Collins go first today. He went 201, and I got Parsons at like 26. So that was kind of surprising IDP wise. Nobody's really taking safeties, but there weren't like really any big name safeties or, there's a couple of guys taken, but the first guy off the board was the guy that most people never even, I hadn't heard anybody always talk about, Javon Holland. So, you get a couple of guys going. We got going to Jacksonville, a guy going to Atlanta, Richie Grant. But I mean, I got him in like the last round of our draft. So it was not like last year where people were taking Kyle Duggar, Jeremy Chin, Winfield. Like those guys were going in the third pretty consistently. Nobody's really reaching for those IDP defensive backs this year. I've seen a couple of corners go. And then the defensive line is pretty bare. I mean, it's Kwity Paye, Rousseau, and then I've seen Azeez Ojulari go. I don't think I've seen many others.
That Colts, whoever the
not the Colts guy, the Giants dude.
From
Georgia.
I think a lot of that is teams or managers just looking at last year. There were so many deep IDP offensive hits in the rookie drafts. Everyone's trying to recreate that. And I don't necessarily think it's there, but maybe it is.
Yeah.
We won't know until midway through the season. But the rookie drafts have been heavy offense. I've enjoyed it really, because most of my rookie picks I traded away. So I'm
I know you
fourth
did.
and fifth, sitting there in the 4th and 5th, and I'm getting what I believe to be top 15, top 20 defensive backs and defensive ends right there. That's where I'm trying to build my depth at.
All right, we got a question from the YouTube coming in hot, throwing 100-mile-an-hour fastball. Jonathan Rentira, hopefully I said it, Rentira, says, who are your top 10 IDP rookies to make an impact this year? All right, so our next episode is going to be the IDP rookie ranking show, but I'm looking at my board over here where I got my guys all written down, and I have the guys circled that I think could make an impact year one. So I'm just going to read those off to you. I'll start with the linebackers, and then we'll go from there. But they're not really in order, but these are the guys I think that could this season make an actual impact. So I've got Micah Parsons, or be starters like from the beginning of the season. I got Micah Parsons, Jamon Davis from Washington football team. Then I've got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. So there's 3 linebackers I think could immediately make an impact. I have Andre Cisco for Jacksonville, depending on, I think he had some injury stuff, so I don't know if he's going to be starting the week, but if he does, they have an immediate need at the safety position. Javon Holland, Richie Grant, Trevon Morig, the all those guys are defensive backs. And then for defensive line, I think Jalen Phillips, Kwity Paye, and then Odafe Owa from Baltimore. Because Baltimore, I'm not sure if that's exactly how you say his name, but I know Baltimore has needed pass rusher because Matt Judon's gone. And they've gotten rid of Patrick Onosar and they got rid of CJ Mosley. So, I mean, they brought in another guy who's kind of who's going to play edge for them, and they need edge rusher help. Yannick's not there. I don't know what's up with Calais Campbell. So, they took him in the first round. He's going to get used, in my opinion. So, to be used is how you make an impact on the field. So, those are my top 10 guys right now. I know the order's kind of jacked up there, but those are the top 10 guys that I think could, would, should, will make an impact as rookies. So great question.
Jonathan Renneria coming in with a hell of a question right there. We could talk for an hour on that one.
Yeah, well, that's why it's going to be its own show later. I need to do a little bit more digging, a little bit more sorting out, but those guys are all in the IDP Index. I'll give y'all a little taste. There's a few people hanging out here. Let's give them a taste. Let's see what we got here. I'm going to sort them out.
I'll tell you, you need to look into that Caleb Farley, that corner out of Virginia Tech that went to Tennessee, man. He's filling a spot that's been nothing but IDP gold for defensive backs. I really look forward to seeing that fruition because he's going super late.
Super late and gold. All right.
Yeah, nothing better than super late gold.
So right now, my top IDP rookie is Micah Parsons. He is in my 3rd tier, which makes him a starter. I have Jamon Davis as behind him, and then I have Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I gotta get you saying that. So those are my top 3 rookie linebackers. All of them looking at starting roles. All of them looking at teams that produce. We don't know the Washington football team produces high-level linebackers, but we know the Cleveland Browns always produce a high-level linebacker. I wrote an article about that on Dynasty Nerds last year. Go look at that. They have a long history for the past 4 or 5 years. And Dallas has a long history, 4, 5, 6 years running now, of producing a top 12 linebacker or 2. So, and that's true with the Browns too, because for a while, Christian Kirksey and Joe Schobert were top 12 guys. So these are young guys going on to teams that have a history of producing guys like this. So that's why they're both in my top 3. And then Jamon Davis, disruptive team, around him.
I think he could be a sneaky play to finish the top rookie at the end of the year going to the Washington football team. I mean, they've got 2 old linebackers there, and John Bostic and Davis, and then, Cole Holcomb rotating in.
Davis still puttering around?
He is, yeah. He's still there.
Puttering around. I'm surprised he just gotta take a little coach's office in the corner. No one will even notice.
No, and they keep him on the payroll.
Yeah.
But between Bostic and Davis, they got a pretty high floor for their age and where you can get them. So I think this guy's gonna come in and I think he could be a sneaky play to lead the 21 draft next year.
Massacre, dude. Massacre. All right. Any more questions before we get out of here, y'all? IDP Army? No, nothing. Crickets. All right. Well, unless somebody says something before we outro, Joe, why don't you give us a little spiel and then I'll close us out.
Yeah. You can catch me on Twitter at FantasyGIJoe. Here on the IDP Army whenever I can, and just look forward to pushing out more content, as the season goes, because now we got we got actually some substance to what we're projecting, and it's the best time of year now. Drafts are kicking off. This is the time to catch up on stuff like this and get these rankings and projections before your draft starts, or you'll miss on some good stuff late.
Yep. All right, that's all for me, y'all. Jordan, go check out idparmy.com. Sign up for the Patreon. Follow us at the IDP Army on Twitter. We actually just published an article from IDP Bomber. Go follow him. He's going to be doing a series covering the platforms, the fantasy football platforms, and how they all address or what offerings they have, features they have for IDP. So, and then he kind of grades them based on dynasty, redraft, how their scoring is customizable, how their positions are customizable. I mean, it's really a thorough and interesting article series to be reading, and that just went live on idparmy.com. So go check that out, and we will be back next time with rookie rankings.